based upon their mother's approval, like mom has become mommy slash wifey.
You know, some of these things that you guys develop as coping mechanisms are good, like this on accident. Like, you know what I mean? Like this personality trait you have, this response to the environment has been really useful for you, and it's actually a really good response. Cool. But then some of these other ways of coping or handling things are not so good and not serving you well, you know? And so we want to be able to change and challenge those behaviors by recognizing what they are, where they come from, which is half the battle is determining what the hell's going on with you. And then from there, we can start altering or changing those patterns. So you have a connotation to an X where, you know, you have these sick, terrible feelings about, let's say, a BPD X. And then on top of that, you're attracted now to BPD women in the future because the BPD woman of your past devalued you. In order for you to gain your sense of value back, you could win over another BPD woman and pull her in and make her love you and make her overcome all of her dysfunctions. And then she loves you and says you're valuable. And now you've overcome this deep sense of lack of value you got from the previous relationship. Let's look at that pattern for a minute. Well, if I can uncouple the neurological connection to distress from that chick in the first place, and to that attraction to that toxic behavior, and relearn a new emotional connotation or connection to those things, and build or develop a new emotional connotation to healthier, hotter women and better women that aren't going to act like crazy people with personality disorders.
Right.
Now you're winning. Now you're breaking this pattern of toxic relationships.
And I think a lot of guys in our space, right? You gotta water up after that one. That was a long one.
I know it's morning, so I'm like,
no, you're on fire, man.
Already.
You're on fire, man. I know people are probably hating me for interrupting you, but I want to add a little bit of clarity for the audience. So I think a great example is because, you know, everybody in this space, we love to make fun of girls with daddy issues, but mommy issues with men are a real thing. And a lot of guys who come from toxic households with moms arguing with them, single moms treating the son as the de facto husband, you know, like grown men still like trying to make decisions in their life based upon their mother's approval, like mom has become mommy slash wifey. And that's, you know, that's a big part of what's wrong with America is right now, and it's a silent epidemic. I think that's why the movie, have you seen The Joker?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think that's why The Joker was such a hit, man. You know, $20 million budget, but the story was on point, and it was it grossed $1 billion. You take a 20 million to get to 1 fucking billion. That is like, because the message in itself, it was just such an anomaly in Hollywood. But I think it was a silent, you know, and it was a kind of a dark story. But at the end of the movie, he's like, he killed his mom. He's like, I'm free. Fuck you, mom. I'm going to kill you, and I'm going to go become this murderer. And before he was suffering, he wasn't getting women. He was miserable. Society laughed at him, treated him like shit. And it's, I think a lot of guys who are suffering with this kind of, like, a lot of people who watch, like, let's be honest, guys who watch our content, not necessarily in the happiest place initially. And
that's why they came to us. They didn't come to us because they were doing awesome usually. Right. And I sure as shit didn't get interested in a lot of these things because I was doing awesome either. You know what I mean? And so we usually all have limitations and things where we see a problem and we want to try to solve it. And then that brings us here. Yeah.
I think the uncoupling of the emotions and the toxic patterns is a lot to do with the mommy issues as well. Like, it's how to solve the mommy issues. I think a lot of guys don't want to admit they have mommy issues, but they know they kind of do. And that's why they subconsciously seek out these toxic women, and they create this never ending lifelong cycle of toxicity. And then some of them become jaded. They go black pill, they go MGTOW, they're like, all women are whores, they're all fucking bitches, and you can never be happy, but they don't realize they're broken up here.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%, you know, and it's like that toxic dynamic with a caregiver is so important to recognize, because it creates these attachment problems and these attachment issues, maladaptive attachment styles, being, anxious and, clinging to women, having that one-itis, or being avoidant and not being able to have healthy relationships at all. And then, taking that women ain't shit kind of attitude and not being able to actually have a good connection with another person that has vagina. Like, right. And these are, or having a disorganized style, which is, I think, is not recognized as much in the psychological community, but that's what I'm seeing a lot with a lot of men, is that they oscillate between attaching to someone and then pulling away or sabotaging things too. And it, even if you're even a daddy issue, right? Let's say dad's not around, right? Or you don't have a strong masculine figure. Well, Jesus, these guys have no idea what it's like to be a man. They don't have a good model for that. And in fact, they're growing up oftentimes being told through that societal feminized paradigm that masculinity is bad and being masculine is a problem. And so they're not taking ownership, for example. They're not taking that personal responsibility. They're taking that victim mindset. And a lot of these things are based on an inability to handle their emotions, an inability to handle the hardships of life. I mean, you need that dad around to tell you, hey, life sucks sometimes, but you're going to suck it up and you're going to do the best with what you got. And, kind of have that stoic sort of pick yourself up and be a man kind of thing in a loving, caring way. A lot of guys don't have that model. And moms, you could have the best mom in the world, single mom, whatever. We get all over single moms all the time. But here's the thing. You could have the best mom in the world, but that mom is never going to be a good dad, and she's never going to make you as the son or the boy or the man of the house into a good husband. You know what I mean? That's not how it works. It's not how they're wired. Just like as a dad, I'm not a good mother. Okay. I need mother figures around to do that part and to do that job. I'm good at the dad part. I'm not going to be as a single dad. Thankfully, I have a good relationship with his biological, well, not biological mom, but his adopted mom. And, my LTR, even is a good mother figure for him, because I'm not a great mom, but I'm a good dad as best as I can anyways. I can work on that part of it. And so when you're absent one of these figures, it can create problems. Avoidant attachment styles, for example, guys who grow up with single moms tend to develop these attachment styles, because what happens is they have to be emotionally strong now for mom, because mom doesn't have a man in her life that is stable, that she can, so mom doesn't,
because it's so true. And I've coached so many guys with it as well.
Yeah, mom doesn't have a stable male figure in her life, so now her identity gets wrapped up in her male children. And if that male child, let's say, tells the truth even about how he feels about certain things, he's going to be punished for it, or she's going to be emotionally erratic, and it's going to be all this stuff, and he's going to feel bad, like, you did bad in school today, or and she's a mess because had a bad day at school or whatever. She's not emotionally stable. And, as a mother should be, like a mom should be, as a caregiver, strong with her children. You know what I mean? She can be an emotionally erratic mess as a woman to her husband or to her, to dad. All right. But to her children, she needs to be a strong figure. Well, she can't be a strong figure when she's by herself. She's not wired for it. Women in general, they're not wired for it. And so what happens is she shows up and she puts that all on that son. And that son now has to lie to her, has to conceal how he thinks and feels from her, has to show up and be a certain way, and disconnect from her, because she's oscillating from I love you to I hate you, you're a piece of crap every day, because she's not emotionally stable. Now
my mom did that.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And now you get
this.
Right. And you have this emotional instability. And the only way of handling that is to pull away and disconnect. Distance. And now you have a disassociative style. Now you're clinging to a girl and irrationally, and then she comes around and you're like, fuck that girl, she's going to screw me over. And then you push her away. That's disorganized. You know what I mean? Now you can't be honest with your partner, even in times when it doesn't even make sense to be dishonest, just to conceal a part of yourself, just to make sure you're not exposed to this other person who could damage you emotionally, because now you have feelings for them. You know what I mean? Avoidance, where they pull away altogether and, disassociate and, from their partners and conceal who they are and what they're thinking and all that stuff.